I think when you are changing things within,
Yeah.
you also automatic change things in your outside.
I remember when we first got together, like it was like at a cafe in South Melbourne, and we were like, "Oh, let's catch up for an hour. Let's meet just out of curiosity."
Yeah.
3 hours later, we were still talking. I'm like, "Fuck, I've got to get back to work. I've got to go. I've got to go." And I really enjoyed our conversation, and for people that don't know your line of work. I just want to say, like, you're someone that's literally transported thousands of people worldwide through your expression of music, especially from what I know. People might know certain festivals that you've worked at, whether it's Rainbow, Earthcore, Magic Garden, but I think there's so much more to than just playing music. Then that's what you're about, and I'd love to be able to get into that today, because behind the artist, behind that, there's so much that people don't get to see, and as you're growing and sharing your music, I'd love to go and unveil behind the artist a little bit of what it is, and maybe we've got some things that we can both share about that previously we wouldn't have spoken about. So I want to say thank you for coming on, and if you could maybe give an essence of what your music is about to the people that are listening, that would be really wonderful, so that they've got context behind you as an artist and you as a person of expression.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me here. And look, my music is always evolving, but mainly my music is a combination of different traditions, so mainly South America, Middle East, Indian traditions. So the traditional music that comes from that culture then is transposed in a more, I would say, contemporary electronic formula. But that formula always change. So usually is like connected to techno or psytrance music. I would say my music is psychedelic, right? But the most important part for me is actually the connection with those traditions, because that's the traditions of my ancestors. So I wanted always, especially in the last 5 to 6 years, really dive and connect that energy of my ancestors, because I believe that channeling that knowledge, that tradition gives to me and to people that then comes to see my performances a different way to connect with themselves.
It's interesting when you talk about ancestors and like knowing where you come from. Like, my background is of an Indian background, ethnicity, and I guess my background is Sikh, and Sikh were the warrior race in India. We were up the north. We were traditionally bigger guys and a bit fairer in skin. And I remember growing up, and it was literally like my parents were like, "Be proud, you're Sikh. This is strong. Like, you should be proud to stand tall and express yourself, and go out for what you're after. Doesn't matter if we're in a Australian culture. No, this is the essence of who you are. This is the essence of where you've come from." What is the essence? What is the essence of where you've come from?
Well, look, my parents originally come from South America, from the north of Argentina, from a place called Jujuy, which is a very interesting province close to the border to Bolivia. So my grandma, from my father's side, she's actually indigenous. She's come from that tradition of indigenous Bolivian culture. And from my mother's side, they're coming from Portugal, France, and Italy. But then some part of my ancestors from my father's side, they're coming from the Middle East. So there is they came from the Middle East, they went to Spain, and from Spain, the father of my father, so my grandfather, went to South America, where then married my grandma.
What does that mean to you? I think there's a lot of people, right, that like have a massive disconnect from where their ancestors have come from. What does that mean to you in terms of knowing the story of your family history and origin?
It's everything, because look, I think sometimes our history implies in the way that we connect with the reality, and sometimes can help us, sometimes can lead us to be too attached to certain dynamics, you know. And but for myself, I wanted to really create that acknowledgement, because knowing where you come from ultimately leads you to have a better understanding of who you are.
Mm.
And for me, is so beautiful to remember all these hundreds of thousands of people that through the history they've been putting their work, their determination, their effort to bring us here as a human being, you know, in this reality, in this dimension. So I don't take it for granted. I don't take for granted the effort, the purpose, you know, of many women and men that they came together and they created my family.
Mm. That's beautiful. Like I take that back to, like, you know, I found out that I think it was my great grandfather, there was like a whole bunch of the village up in the north from, you know, from India where we're from, and they got on a boat to come to Australia, and not a lot of them decided to end up stepping on the boat bar him. And then the flow-on effect of him coming here, my grandparents on my dad's side started off in like Mildura in the country and didn't have much, and then on mum's side was in India, and then they moved to Canada. And you sort of like, you see this picture of like how all these things have formed, like on your mum's side, on your dad's side, and you go, wow, like how did this all come to create like me? And then you go, pretty lucky, right? How that's all happened. In the sense of music and the sense of artistry,
Yeah.
like how do you leverage everything that you've seen come about in your past and your history into expressing that into music? Because that's a talent, a skill that doesn't just happen overnight. How do you get and convey that into sound?
Well, that comes with a lot of determination in creating that skill. Myself, I don't have any formal training, so I learned everything by myself. I didn't learn any music. I just one day I remember I received this package. It was like you know, the cereal Kellogg's thing, and there was a CD, and in this CD there was like a program that I installed in my computer, and you could take some samples and put it together and create music out of it. That was actually the first time that I created music.
How old were you?
At 14.
Wow. Okay, cool. And so that was what, out of a Kellogg cereal box?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's you played at Rainbow Surf and an Esoteric and all the biggest festivals in the world, and it started off out of a Kellogg's.
Correct. So it was like, you know, it was a gift that was brought by, you know, my parents. I mean, my parents bought that, and in that there was like this connector, this tool, and then it was up to me to decide what to do with that. And what I decided was like, wow, this is cool. Now I get to experiment all these sounds. So imagine that program was so kind of stiff, and you could just use those samples that were provided in that program. So what I was doing, I was recording with a microphone, like, you know, those shitty microphones that were using in the 90s, and just recording sound through that and importing those sounds in the program. And I was mixing them with the existing samples. And, you know, I was doing like very weird kind of sounds with my voice, or like recording some instruments, some ambience in the night when everything was calm. Where I come from is in Italy, in the north of Italy. There is like a lot of nature. So in the night you could really hear a lot of birds singing. So I was like recording all this sound and then importing it in there. And I was creating all this kind of shamanic techno. You know, they didn't have like the first experiment were like really bad.
Yeah.
But I didn't stop, you know. I was like, for me, it was like, let's do it, let's continue. This is, you know, through failure and exercising that skill, then I finish all the songs that I was doing. So even if I didn't like them, I finish them, export them, and share it with my friends. And then my friends, they were listening to it like, and they were like, man, you have something here. You should continue, you know. So then led me to organize with my friends, because at the time I was like hanging around the rave culture and like just going around and as a party teenager, and really feel the energy from the space of the rave that I was going, coming back to my home and say, wow, this thing, like I channel this energy, so put it into this song. And song after song then lead me to actually have a substantial, you know, variety of song to make a live set. And then that led me to decide my name, which is Kundalini Project, right? And that name came, funny enough, I was walking from high school to, was my first year of high school. I was walking back to home and I saw this poster, Kundalini Yoga, you know. So I went and I say to my mom, oh, Mom, I saw this poster. I want to go to this course of Kundalini, you know. And I was still like, you know, I wasn't allowed to go in because you have to have at least like 18. So I asked my mom to drive me there, and I went there, and there was all these adults doing this Kundalini yoga, and I loved it. I connected so much with the breath work, the kriyas, which is the form that is used in Kundalini yoga. And then, because there was an artist that I was following, his name was Alien Project, I thought, Kundalini Project. And then I combined them, and that's how Kundalini Project came along.
And that's all before the age of 18?
Yeah.
How old are you now?
38.
38. So for over 20 years, Kundalini Project has been a thing.
Correct.
What were some of the things that you found that when you started this journey that you didn't expect to come along the way?
Oh, many things. I will say, you know, many things were actually related to how I have been able to deal with a lot of personal things in my life, you know. So at the age of 14, my father passed away, and music was just came in. So a few months after I actually created those first songs, my father committed suicide. And that was unexpected for me. But the music was some kind of a form of therapy where I could express my feelings, my emotion in a way that was not just through words, but through feelings and sounds. So I will say that music has been a teacher through that moment till, you know, after happened the same thing to my mom. I have like a neurodegenerative disease, and that music was there for me to holding the space. And so I would say the music for me holded the space always to channel whatever it was at the time, with also, you know, the help of like self-work and self-awareness, meditation and practices. And of course, when you are able to help in a healthy way, convert that story that happened in your life in a way that is authentic and comes with love and care and dedication, you create abundance. So I created my abundance just through that, being channeling that energy, and then everything came to me, playing at events, being part of festivals, creating community, helping community in development of the type of work that I'm doing.
I think there's this common thing in today's society where everyone sees the end product of where someone is and doesn't understand the experiences that someone has to go through in order to be able to be perceived as someone that has achieved something that other people envy, right? And when I see you perform, and I've been to, a recent event of yours where it put me into a position that I haven't been into before, which was sober dancing.
Yeah.
Right. And sober dancing full on. Like you saw me dance. I was I was like an octopus on rollerblades. I was fucking everywhere.
Definitely a great dancer.
But one of the things that I think, reverting back to that, is that everyone looks at each other's lives through a very rose-tinted set of glasses. And we sometimes forget, Alex, that like you have to go through a lot in order to get to where you are. Yeah. Losing, obviously, both mum and dad is something that I think is got to be the hardest challenges anyone goes through in life. And obviously music was one thing that allowed you to be able to channel a certain energy and express it in a certain way. Besides music, did you channel that energy any other way?
Oh, yes. Well, first of all, I would say personal practice like of self-awareness or meditation. Such an important part of my life is like, I can't describe it, is something that comes to me every time and every day when I sit down with my cacao and before my meditation. I'm like, I'm so lucky to feel that I have the abundance to sit here and celebrate this moment with myself, and then go to the world and channel my experience through art, which can be filmmaking is also another part where I channel and I challenge myself into events. So, creating events that have a purpose of changing life to others or changing the experience of dance that is not commonly what society do, which is clubbing. So all these different forms are different parts of myself that through these challenges that I had, they are converted into experiences that I create for myself and others to uplift. I want to, every time I'm embracing a film set or creating an event or playing music, I want to create just a great experience for myself and others, and that is the most valuable thing.
When I think about that, and I think about how people turn up and how I turn up, for instance, to like, especially like family, friends, workplace, right?
Yeah.
And I go, right, like what kind of version of me is going to be the best version to be able to enjoy whatever moment it is I'm going to. So for instance, when I go in and I act as a podiatrist and I work as a podiatrist, I go in with a certain energy, frequency, effort where my patients come through the door and I know that I don't have to be so serious. It's like I'm here to help, but let's enjoy the moment together, right? And that is super cool because I feel like I'm not losing anything in order to be able to provide service.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that when you talk about how you bring yourself into, whether it's a film set or whether it is how you bring yourself into performing a live set, you come in with a certain energy frequency. I actually just literally spoke about this to my previous guest, Ricky, and how you show up is super important. But the thing is that you have the choice to choose how you want to come into play. Besides the music side and the producing side, where you come in and you do this very intentional sort of song and rhythm and dance for people to be able to express themselves.
Yeah.
What is the lighter side of you that is not as deep into that? Like, do you find that what makes you light when you just go out and chill? Is it maybe you go out and you like to catch up with a girl, or it's like you go with the boys and go for a walk, or like it's something where you go and watch a game? Or what's the lighter side of the heaviness that comes with giving your full energy out there?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. Being in nature, like I spend a lot of my time between what I do connecting with nature. So either with friends, or the woman that I'm dating, or just by myself. I love to spend time in nature. I love also to go out and party. But mainly I will say, if I have to look at when I feel like light and really just in my full element, is when I'm in nature. Like, nature for me is one of those things that is like, I will want always to be in nature, because I feel the most light version of myself.
Yeah. And you can laugh and there's joy, and the reason why I bring it up is, right, and it's something that I see commonly with different people, is I see the same expression of that person in all environments.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, for instance, you might see me at work, and then you might see me at home, and then you might see me at your dance concert. They're different expressions coming out. Like, when we were at the cafe together and we were talking about the relationships that we were going through, we were giggling like schoolgirls, because we were like, oh my God, what the fuck? But they're different expressions that come out based off that. So, especially I think when people listen to an artist like yourself, and you go through your ceremony, you go through things that are connected with you.
Yeah.
Sometimes people think that is one dimensional. But
yeah.
and I just go, hold on a second. There are so many elements that make up someone, and sometimes they see that because that's also who they are.
Yeah. Also, Steve, you are. When I met you, me and you, we had this. Like, I felt that we had a great connection from the start, and this connection that we have, and also it's interesting, the work that you do relates also to part of my family. My family was a physiotherapist. My mom was a physiotherapist, so I can relate in the work that you do, and how much energy you put into, showing up with your, intention to create a space of healing, ultimately for your client, and what I see in you, Stephen, is always like this driven person, but that does have also a kid-like attitude. You like to be playful, right? And that's what I see in you when I spend time with you, and that's why probably our inner child, when we are coming together, they instantly connect, in such a natural way, and even when I with myself at home by myself, I feel light. I don't feel heavy, or I don't feel that I have something that I have to adjust myself. I try to adjust the reality on myself, so I don't have to always align myself by the reality around me that aligns to myself. That doesn't mean that I over control. That means that I could create the right conditions for me to be in the right place almost every time. So, but if I'm challenged, I bring lightness too. So, for instance, when you're stepping into a space and you feel there is a challenge that is involved, and maybe there is someone there that is making you feel challenged, you just celebrate that person. You say, how are you? How's your day? And you just connect with the person. And the same thing, you do it for yourself. How I'm feeling in this moment. How I can become a lighter version of myself, right? So I think we can be light in any circumstances we want. Is the act of awareness, is the act of being aware how we feel internally. That makes the difference.
Yes, I think being aware of how you are and having the capacity to stand back off that and go, how would I like to be? I think are two really interesting things that everyone can do in any given situation. And then you can couple that with music. So like, for instance, hypothetically, for some people, they're aware, but they can't shift. They can't shift it. They can't like break the funk, right? So this is where I think music comes like a super big part of like being able to shift the energy that you've got into something that would serve you better, right? Because there's so many times, I've had times where I've sort of come home and I've had an interesting day, right? So I'm managing some stuff at like, let's say with the family, and then I've got a new partner, so I'm wanting to step into that world. But then I'm like, fuck, I have got so many dishes that I haven't packed. I've got work that I need to prep for tomorrow. I've got a podcast on next week. And you're like, all right, I'm aware that right now I am like, my mind is going a million miles an hour. But sometimes I'll put on some music or some tunes or something, because I know the energy I need to step into if I want to go out and see my new partner or go out and, interact with the world. Can't be this hell-bent, crazy version of myself. Need to sort of let that go, let that shed. What music do you listen to when you've come home and you've had a hard day?
Yeah.
And the tracks that you're trying to sync up don't fucking sync. And you're like, all right, I need to get myself here.
Yeah, interestingly enough, it's nothing that I play. Like the music that I make is not the music that I listen. So I will listen a lot of psychedelic music from the 60s or new age music, like Vangelis is one of my favorite composer, which makes like this ambient, like real lush music that really brings me into a space of calm. Or ceremonial music, like a lot of ceremonial music from, South America, bossa nova from Brazil. I listen a lot of like acoustic music, I will say. So that's interesting because it's a very different thing from what I actually play. What about you? What do you listen to?
What do I listen to? So, yeah, interesting. So it depends. Like the other day, I was like, so it depends on my mood, right? So I was going to the gym, and it's been about 5 years since I've played just Eminem back to back to back to back to back.
All right.
But I was like in a mood where I wanted to convert my energy from like just heaps of stuff happening to like put it into like a training environment. So typically when I train, I listen to more like techno house, but sometimes if I want to get a bit grungy, I'll listen to rap and R&B.
Okay.
So that's sort of like how that happened.
When I go to the gym, I listen like trap.
Yeah.
Like Travis Scott or Party Next Door.
Okay.
I love that music. Like I love trap music. Like I'm a huge fan of like that kind of style too.
Yeah. If I'm at home though, like one of my favorite artists is Elderbrook. So like,
okay, never listened to that.
Yeah. You've got a bit of his sort of hairstyle and vibe, actually. I've got to get a picture of you and him next to each other face to face. It's a bit of a doppelganger situation going on. Legit, I swear to God. I wish I had my phone. I'd show you. But so, holy fuck. It's actually like, not from the same, like, necessarily music, but like, yeah, anyways, you'll see. But he plays a really cool type of upbeat style of music that I quite like. And then I can just go to Spotify radio and I know the songs will be somewhat similar. And that's when I'm sort of dancing in my jocks around the house and not giving a fuck and then just enjoying myself.
So you have like basically some style of music that work in different environment where you channel a kind of a identity within yourself that somehow can not fit but can blend in that environment, isn't it?
Yeah, so the way I think of it is like I have like a baseline sort of version of myself that I'm always, right? So we always go back to like a certain baseline, whatever it is. So for me at home around my friends, I would feel that I am pretty upbeat and outgoing and social and laughing and all that type of stuff. That's my general go-to. So I know that there's a certain style of music I listen to if I've got friends coming over that are my mates, because it's like that's the vibe I'm setting, right? But then if I'm wanting to be a little bit more deep into, chilling with someone and getting on a slightly more intimate level,
Yeah.
I won't be playing the same type of music, right?
Yeah.
Of course, like it makes sense, right? We don't go to a beautiful dinner out there and listen to psychedelic trance house.
No.
Or maybe you do. I don't know what kind of.
No. Well, but I have to say that the music that I listen by myself,
Yeah.
that I connect with myself, like in my intimate space, will be like probably the same music that I play if I have an intimate situation with someone else, because that's where I feel more connected. But I'm also allowing the other person to share whichever music they feel into. So yeah, it depends.
Have you ever dated someone that's not into your style of music?
Yeah, most of my girlfriends are not into my music.
Yeah?
Yeah,
How do you feel about that?
for me it's great because I don't want to have like I don't want to. Of course, my girlfriend has to be like supporting what I do, but I don't necessarily want like a fan. I want a partner that I can even take that my environment doesn't relate to that, to her environment. I feel it. It's also good for myself because, and what she brings to the table is different. What I bring to her table is different. So we are contributing each other to grow in a very different way. And I'm very open, so I don't want, I don't want to have in my life just people that are in the same environment where I'm coming from.
I think that's where the biggest growth happens, right? When you bring people with different opinions, different environments.
Correct.
And I reckon in today's world, like, you tell me if I'm wrong, but like every single friendship group, not every single friendship group, but most friendship groups are an echo chamber.
Yeah.
They're the same people saying the same shit that is just being bounced around from one another, all nodding heads. Whereas like it's very hard for some people to speak up in a friendship group when they disagree. But that's where the power is, because it allows you to critically think about what you're doing with yourself. And I reckon anyone that's listening, I just did a podcast. By the time this releases, it will probably be a month ago. So, on how to define friendships, like your inner circle of friendships,
Yeah.
and what are some of the toxic traits, right? But one of them was around the idea that like people feel that they can't be friends with someone that doesn't hold the same opinion, rather than realizing that we all have a subset of values, but our opinions can be completely different, whether it be political, whether it be about culture
Yeah,
or
correct.
kids or like sexual preference
Correct.
or whatever the fuck. Like I think that's a very interesting dynamic.
You know what? Like it's interesting. A lot of my friends are actually, a business, very successful business people. They have like maybe, they're very into corporate, but when they are with, like we are, just in like they are in my presence, we are hanging, we are very different. So, but we don't share anything in terms of like music or. I feel that is so refreshing to actually connect with people that are very different from you, because that makes you step into the uncomfort zone. And ultimately is where the growth happens. And even if you're thinking about business perspective, if you are dealing with many different, people, your business is going to grow more because you are tapping into more differences where you can actually bring your own authenticity in. So I think what you're saying about the echo chamber is true. And that's actually what leads to recession. Because if a lot of people from different backgrounds, they collaborate together, that's where abundance is created. But if all the people from the same industry, from the same like small circle, they're just combining or collaborating to each other, that becomes stagnant energy. So I feel that is a valuable aspect in business, is a valuable aspect in friendship, in relationships, to just really connect with what is different, because nothing is actually different. We come from the same source. It's just that we are embracing a different lifestyle at the end.
Who would be your friend that you'd say is the most different objectively to yourself?
Okay. Well, I have a friend, he has a very successful sports brand. Highly corporate, multi-million dollar. He's very different from me. He's like, proper businessman, like in
Suit and tie.
yeah. No one will think that I will hang out with this type of person.
And so how did you guys meet?
I meet because my other work as a filmmaker, I got basically engaged to do a gig as a filmmaker, and we just connected, talking about esotericism, actually.
Right.
Yeah, because a lot of people that are in high corporate business, that may be part of, some esoteric groups, or maybe they are sharing knowledge, and a lot of people have culture around those topics. So we started to talk about life, and we are similar background, so Italian background, and we just connected with that, and we are very different, but we still have a great friendship.
It's interesting. Like I reflect and I look on my friendships, and one of the things that I found was, like, as I grew up, the friends in terms of what they did work-wise, all were really different, but the emotion that you had when you spent time with them was all quite similar. So like joyous or laughter or like, whatever it is, So it's interesting, because I think whether it's in friendships or whether it's in relationships, I think we try to always look in the same bunch of people, same circle. Like when I used to run nightclubs and bars, right? One of the things that you'd always find is there's the same subset of blokes and the same subset of chicks that would always go, no matter, it might be a different bar or club, but it was always the same subset going to the same event style.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So you'd have that like pretty pretentious crowd, and you'd know all the people in that crowd, right? And then if I had two contracts, so I had a contract at the Albion, running the Albion, and I had a contract at Storyville, right? Storyville, so different. Yeah. Like such a different crowd. But like one of my closest friends just met his partner at Storyville, right? And it was like, and they just had their year anniversary together. And it was like, how the fuck did that happen? Like, just such a different energy, such a different vibe. But it just shows people that you can go out to wherever you want, and there are going to be people that you can connect with and resonate with, and you shouldn't have a lens of like barrier or way to connect with people, because there's something deeper that if you get to know, you'd be like, shit, I was looking through this lens. Now I see it through this lens. All right.
Exactly. And that's why I said before, when you are in a challenging situation that you don't feel comfortable to, and you are maybe feeling that those people in that situation are the challenge, connect with them. Ask them, how are you? What are you up to? What is your life? And then from there, the conversation leads to something else. But if we're staying in our own bubble, always thinking, oh yeah, this person looks like this, so I'm not gonna go, I'm not gonna try it, I'm not gonna approach. Like that's just a judgment, which doesn't lead really to anything, And I feel that it's so valuable to step out from the comfort zone and being open and always ask. Even before, when I was here, I went to the toilet. There was someone there. Hey, how are you? How was your day? and have a great. And then this same guy helped me to came to in the right theater, because otherwise I was going somewhere else. So it's just we are all human beings. If we are coming from that perspective, that we are all humans and we share like the same, we are the same race. Doesn't matter the country, doesn't matter where the cultural background is. We are from planet Earth, So then you instantly understand. Wow, and every person you connect to will lead us to, or trigger, or highlight, or uplift, or downshift, or whatever it's gonna be. But that is gonna contribute to you in your growth.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because every time you meet someone, you're going to get something from them, and it's how you perceive that. That's going to make all the difference.
Yeah, exactly. It's not really get something. It's not, because otherwise it's almost like becoming always like a profitable
transactional.
Exactly, transactional. Thank you. Transactional experience. No, it's more like just let's play. Because that playfulness when we are kids, you see these beautiful like kids in the kindergarten, on the playground. They're all different. They come from very different families. Who cares? They don't care. They just play. So it's just about also playing. This playfulness is so important. That's where you feel you actually reach that lightness that you were asking before, when you are playful.
If someone's watching the podcast, they'll see that you've got the nice big necklace on, the double hoop earrings, the bit of bling on there.
Yeah.
How did that all come about for you? Because that's a big expression, yeah?
It's a passion. I have the passion for jewelry since I am a teenager. I love style. I love good clothes. I love it makes me feel good. Yeah.
That's I think when we talk about feeling good and expression, right?
Yeah.
Because you're an artist, people will look at that and go, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Because you got to look at it like, you're a DJ, artist, filmmaker.
Yeah.
You can dress like this because that's how we bucket people. I want to try something in the future. Just after that question, I'm going to get you to style me one day. And I'm going to go out wearing what you would wear to a dance event.
Are you great already?
No. I've got my style, but I'm interested because it's like, it'd be fucking funny how it feels to put something on that you don't feel comfortable with. I'm not saying
Brother, I'm telling you, I will be a great stylist.
Yeah, I believe you.
Because it's part of my work too, because when I'm filming commercial and stuff, you will have to style a little bit your environment, so...
But I think it'd be an interesting challenge if anyone's listening and has gotten to the point where they're thinking, okay, I always wear the same shit.
Yeah.
What stops me from dressing up real different?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
so
a beautiful question.
When was the last time you rolled in to take film in a suit and tie or a shirt and corporate kit?
1 month ago.
Oh, well, fuck. Okay, fair enough. But did you do that? Did you do that because that was what was required of you, or was it just because you're like, no, I feel it?
Well, I think that environment requires, in some places, not always a certain decorum. Let's put it this way. But I like it too. It's not that I'm dressing like that. This is my common. This is where I go everywhere. But I like to change. Of course, I'm not really into fully corporate style. I'm not sure why. Maybe I will change. So I'm open. Actually, I'm open to this.
Yeah, I reckon that'd be cool. I might
I'm open.
Next time you do a gig, right? I'll wear what you reckon I should, what you would pick out for yourself, and you can wear what I pick out.
All right.
And then we can see, because I know part of the music and the dance and the theater behind what you do is a lot around sober experiences, right? And it's about removing judgment of self. It's about fully letting go. Like that event that I went where you were DJing and you kindly invited me to come, where we listened to an hour of your music and it was just like dance, like nobody's watching.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
that is something I don't think I have done that since I was a kid.
All right.
Like
That's
really,
beautiful then.
like
Oh,
really, like
I'm so excited.
I wonder how many people have gone to anywhere, and by the way, and not taken substances, drugs, alcohol, and been fully expressive with how they feel. It's a different coat that you're putting on.
It's a very different
Or it's a coat that you're taking off, whatever way you want to think about it. So the reason why I say that is because it's nice to be regularly challenging yourself to do things that are outside your comfort zone. So, I think another situation that I'd like to put myself in after speaking to you is go, righto, like I have my way of dressing. I like my style.
Yeah,
it's
it's
cool.
great style.
It's cool. But it's like, all right, not in a million years, brother, would I be wearing this? Like, that's the way I think. But I go, well, why not? Why not try and see how I feel? What comes up for me the moment that I put it on? Is it laughter? Is it like being afraid? Is it like judgment of self? Like, I think that is a really interesting thing that people can do. It's like, right, we're going to style you completely different.
Yeah, look, in that regard, I feel that when I was like, this came gradually, I think, in my life to don't give a fuck about how I am appearing or that, because maybe when I was like a teenager, I wasn't wearing this, but I was wearing this, maybe. So it gradually, I felt more comfortable within myself and how I show up into with myself, with me first, and then to others. So that led me to just change my style. But my style is actually really evolved since like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like you
Appearance.
you look a photo of when I'm like 20 years ago, I'm completely
How so?
well, I think I trained a little bit more. I changed a lot of behavioral patterns, a lot of. I think when you are changing things within, you also automatic change things in your out, in your outside. So I think that is why.
What is the biggest goal or achievement that you've set out for yourself as the Kundalini project?
Well, I want to play in a fucking full 50,000 stadium.
Yeah. What's the most you've ever played in front of, you reckon?
2,000,
Mm-hmm.
2,500 people. Yeah.
Where was that?
That was in Italy in 2018.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Nice.
A festival. Yeah. And then I played in my second biggest, I would think it was like in front of 1,000, like 800, 1,000 Tanglewood 2 years ago here in Victoria. Yeah. But that's you know what? My goal is to tour as a Kundalini project with my own show and just do my own thing for 2 hours and play and tour with my assets, so my stage, everything. That's what I want to.
Obviously, it's been a pretty recent milestone for you to leave your quote unquote day job, so to speak. Is that right?
Yeah, look, I've always been a freelancer. The recent, I would say, economical crisis made me evaluate that it was good to be safe for a while. And then I felt at the beginning, safety, amazing. After 6 months in, I was like, no. I actually, I saw the other day on Instagram this picture of just coming in like into the job, like this smiley face after 6 months in, like sad. and that was kind of what I felt. I felt that it's not for me, the 9 to 5.
It's not. And there's a lot of people that say it's not for them, but they have to sacrifice the safety. Yeah. You have to sacrifice it. It's something that is you're not going to feel when you're going out there and doing your own jam. 50,000 people, that would be the most exhilarating feeling I could.
Or more.
Why
Or
not?
more. Why not more?
Why not?
Why not?
And if it were to be in front of 50,000 people, is there a festival in the world when you look at the way that it's run based off what you like and what you stand for? That
Lola Plaza
Lola Plaza? Where's that?
in the US.
Yeah.
I think the US probably is where I will have to lead
Yeah.
if I want to do a substantial growth. I think Australia still doesn't have a music industry that holds, especially in the environment where I am, like the type of the type of numbers that I'm looking for. Like there are a few festivals that I'm playing that are like maybe 8,000, 10,000, but the space where I'm playing maybe is like 400, because it's a stage, so it's a smaller stage. And I think the music that I'm playing still is not mainstream, so first I think it's important that I make my music like a little bit more mainstream. Not that I want to, not that I need to, but if that does happen, because it happened organically, that's probably where it leads me, in terms of like playing. But many achievements, I would say the achievements many is to be self-sustainable. So live out in nature and be self-sufficient. That would be great, a better outcome than maybe the 50,000.
Yeah, interesting. Sitting on the other end of someone asking you questions is always an interesting experience for people, but I try to give my guests and my friends that come on here the opportunity to also bounce back and have questions that they would like to ask. And so there is no pressure to ask any questions. But are there things that have come up for you in our conversation or previously having a talk about that you would like to bring up or to ask, or a topic of conversation
of course,
that you would like to lean into?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to ask you, what is like in doing this podcast that you're doing, what is the goal that you have like in 2 years time from here?
So, okay. Everything I've done up until this point has always been goal setting. And the podcast was the first thing where I wanted to take action more quickly than I could develop a plan. Because one of the things that I found was I was so plan orientated all the time that I would procrastinate from actually getting out there and doing what I needed to do. So my thing was to release a podcast at the beginning where I could just speak out and know that it's me. And whoever listens to it, however many people listen to it, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to be fully expressive. After a recent conversation or two, I'm starting to get the idea that the podcast doesn't have to be the main thing. It can just be an extension of myself. And I think I attach myself so much to the podcast that it's not an extension of me. It is quote unquote me. So I think what I'm learning to do now is I'm reevaluating where the podcast sits as an extension of me. And I want to build out those extensions over the next couple of years so that I have the capacity to travel, to work, to have fun with my line of work, but also learn stuff along the way, because I love learning and I love having fun, and putting those two together alongside travel, I think would be something that I care about doing. How that morphs, I don't quite know yet. But
which leads me to another question if you want to.
Yeah, go.
Like, because what I notice here is like, do you feel that as a man in what you are doing, you deserve fully to dedicate your life doing this podcast? Because what I feel is that you've been embracing your profession, and this podcast is almost like the creative side that comes in, which is your interactions with others. And so do you feel that you deserve actually to just focus on this?
I feel like I deserve to focus on my creative expression. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be the podcast.
Okay.
But the podcast has been the first step of me bringing out my creative expression, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So and this is where I said to myself, I was like, okay, I am now putting out a creative side to me that I've never done before.
Yeah.
Right? This is how I can imagine it now, podcast. But when you step into the podcast, you've then stepped into a new world. And when you become a slightly bit more creative, guess what? It opens up new doors.
Correct.
You become even more creative.
All right. Yeah.
And that's what I've tried to do, is I've tried not to be tunnel vision in my goal setting. I've tried to go, right, I'm stepping into a completely new field that is foreign to me in some sense. When I step into that field and actually do it, only then will I know what comes next of that. But if I try to predict everything, I'm not going to know what's next because I haven't actually stepped into it.
Yeah.
And I think that was really important for me, was to actually get started. If you see this set, and if anyone comes in and has it, it's a pretty perfectly created set.
It's incredible.
Right? And that's partly because that's the way I've always operated, is like logistics, putting things into place, having things all planned out. That is almost one way of looking at it. And the other way is like, I'm doing something, I'm stepping into it, I'm having great conversations. And then this is as much about me going, wow, what is the creative landscape I want to have for myself? And can that be expressed through work, personal life, travel, whatever it is? So it's a bit of a, wavy answer, but I think the more I do this, the more creative outlet and thought process I'll have to be able to take the next step to whatever that is. And I'm starting to get an idea, especially today with your podcast and with my previous podcast, on what that kind of shapes and looks like, but I'll sit with it.
Okay, amazing.
But it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And that wouldn't have happened if I never started. Do you know what I mean?
Amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, they're a couple of really good questions. I think when people look at their own lives and look at the story of their own lives and where they've got to now, they can choose a little bit of how that story unravels. But they can only choose that if not 10 steps ahead, but maybe more like one step ahead. And go, right, well, if I choose that, then there's a whole umbrella of things that can open up from there. But you have to actually get in there and do it.
Yeah.
You have to lean into it.
Yeah.
Like I've had a mate that's always wanted to be a DJ. I'll do the course, I'll learn, whatever. But you, for instance, you just fucking did it.
I didn't do any course.
No, you started. And I think inaction is still an action. And if we are inactive, if we are not taking meaningful steps,
Correct.
There are many people who are very good at taking steps on the spot. Right? We're moving, but you're moving fucking nowhere.
So cool. That absolutely aligns with me. Like, I feel that taking action, and also like a meaningful action, is one of the most valuable things.
100%. And, people that talk about from like a more spiritual sense will say, have an intention, set an intention, lead with your heart. Other people just go, right, if you say you're going to do something, do it and see what happens.
Yeah.
And you've proven to yourself that, one, you're capable of doing what you've said, and two, you'll realize the version of yourself that you've stepped into is something that you can then therefore take another step or leap or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's right. And also like that's how you create a more meaningful relationship with yourself, because when you stick to your own words and you are able to actually respect those words, then your confidence become stronger. That's how you build confidence. If you say, I'm gonna do this project one day, and then you just leave it, your inner, I will say, your inner guide will not trust you if you're not taking a step.
Alex, if people wanted to find out about your project, the Kundalini project, and they wanted to learn about your music, your style, where do they find that? Because all night last night, I was listening to your tunes.
Yeah.
But where can they find that, and where can they find you, and how can they come and view some of your events? Because you're probably the only artist I know that proactively runs events that has not got any substance involved.
Yep.
So you're actually the only artist I know that proactively does that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. You don't proactively talk. You don't need to have alcohol. You don't need to have drugs. I want you to come for the music, and your music is next level. So how do they find your events, and how do they find you?
Okay, so you find more information about Kundalini Project, just type in kundaliniproject.com. Then you find my stuff on Instagram, so Kundalini Project. And then you find my events at themagicgarden.com.au, themagicgardenfestival.com.au, and then the Magic Garden Festival on Instagram. And you can see everything that is out there. And also I have a record label, which is Sacred Vision Records, which is a label that provides music that is organic, psychedelic, tribal, and it is connected to this world of intention.
Brother, I want to say, like, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me.
Man,
that was amazing. Thank you. I really appreciate it, man.